What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another Dota 2 commentary. This is going to be a matchup from the Raidcall Dota 2 League Season 3, and this should be a very interesting match. Shout out to EG and AC for putting on this turn, but I'm going to be doing a lot of replays from this turn because it is featuring quite a few of the top Western teams, and the winners, although the cash prize is going to be the same, they will be flying out to Valencia to participate in DreamHack Valencia for the LAN tournament finals, so it should be overall a very, very good show, as we're going to have EG facing Dignitas. Now, I might go back and cast some of the older replays from this turn because, I don't know how available the replays are. I think it's on youtube.com/OneMoreGameTV, but, it's a league, so it doesn't really matter in what order I cast them in. I think it's a round-robin league featuring a lot of the West top teams. Liquid, I think, are participating, maybe not. Virtus.pro, Dignitas, EG, Alliance, a multitude of different teams are participating in this league, all among the cream of the crop in the West, and only EG, to the best of my knowledge, is the only team that is not going to the international that is in this potential tournament.
5 seconds remaining.
So overall should be a good show, and we're going to have to see how these teams duke it out, as EG have been playing reasonably solidly. Of course, they have been very, very disappointed in that they couldn't qualify for the International 3. Meanwhile, Dignitas did qualify, but they haven't been looking especially sharp, so EG, I'm sure, wants to sort of prove themselves, as they are still looking very, very hungry. They definitely want to prove themselves, and there are a lot of turns between now and the International, and still a lot of Dota after that, so it's definitely going to be worth their time if they manage to get themselves into pretty good shape. And since they're all in the same team house in Arizona, they should be able to put on a pretty solid performance in the upcoming months. Dignitas, been looking a little bit shakier, but we'll see if they can adapt, as Dignitas gonna snatch up the Lifesteal with their first choice. Lifesteal is probably the most feared hero right now in the current metagame, along with Batrider and maybe Wisp, as even Chinese have realized the power of Wisp. So yeah, G1 League Land Finals definitely shaked up a lot of people's perceptions, as the West suddenly looking a little bit stronger, but definitely not comparable to the Chinese as a whole. Well, it is comparable, but definitely as a whole the West are probably not stronger than the Chinese. But Alliance definitely made a name for themselves, so we'll see if the West can sort of take some comfort in that they are not nearly as far behind as they were probably at TI2. So EG gonna respond with Darkseer as well as Bane. Interesting choices, and there's a couple reasons why these are interesting choices. One is that these two heroes are favorites of Dignitas, and I'm sure Dignitas would have loved to pick up these heroes. Darkseer, of course, is a known favorite of Universe. Way Too Sexy does play a pretty mean Bane. Fog does as well. So EG gonna snatch them up. Darkseer also gives them some pretty solid teamfight control. Bane does do reasonably well against the Lifestealer, and also does well against the Lundra that Dignitas did snatch up as well. But still, it is tough to play against this dual core lineup of Lone Druid as well as Lifestealer, as this is one of the most tanky and more mid-game oriented dual core lineup that can transition well into the late game. So it's going to be difficult facing down Dignitas lineup, especially with the EG not picking up any split pushes at the moment. Darkseer can potentially split push, but Bane, being a single target hero, really can't defend very well against the mass pushing force that Dignitas can potentially go through. But Dignitas also picking up the Jakiro, so trying to get themselves a team fight. It could also be to deny EG the Jakiro, as Jakiro isn't really that common a first phase pick, but I think EG would have probably liked to pick up the Jakiro because Jakiro does synergize very, very well with the Darkseer. And EG instead gonna have to snap up the Visage, as Visage has been trending extremely hot, at least recently. He's been really, really successful in the Asian scene. And, you know, Dota is a game all about trends, so the Western scene looking to implement him more. And keep in mind, the West has been playing Visage for a bit as well. Team Liquid and Dignitas were two of the more consistent teams with Visage before he faded out like a month ago. But now the Asian scene has shown him how powerful this hero can truly be. And not only is he a really, really strong laner, he can also do a lot in the mid game and is not too shabby in the late game. He's naturally very, very tanky with a lot of range, and that is quite uncommon as a support. So he can definitely do a lot in the mid to late stages of the game compared to most other supports. Meanwhile, Dignitas gonna be at the Weaver, knowing how difficult it is to catch Weaver with the Lifesteal as well as Lone Druid on their side. Meanwhile, EG gonna ban out other supports that Dignitas could perhaps want, like the Shadow Demon. Shadow Demon I feel like is more of an aggressive support, and Dignitas doesn't really strike me as a team that wants to go super aggressive, but I mean, Shadow Demon Disruption into Jakiro Ice Path and Lifesteal Open Wounds will just do a heck ton of damage. And Dignitas, since they do have the Lifesteal, they are going to probably be more prone to run the Lifesteal in an aggressive trial. Although AY is the Lone Druid player on Dignitas, and whenever he does manage to play Lone Druid, he usually takes the offlane, so it could perhaps be a safe lane Lifesteal, but I think it'll be an aggressive trial and Lifesteal with Universe handling the Nyx in this case.
5 seconds remaining.
So just looking at EG's lineup, they had their two supports locked up, so Dignitas is going to look to ban out carries as well as mid laners, unless Darkster decides to go mid, which he definitely has potential to do that. But with Balcrow, I mean, it's really difficult to win a lane regardless. So Dignitas probably going to look to ban out carries that do particularly well against Lifesteal, probably split pushing carries, whether it be Anti-Mage, Phantom Lights, or heroes of that nature. And Darkster, of course, is a nightmare to push into, so I wouldn't be too surprised if Dignitas ban out the PL. Instead, they're going to ban out the Juggernaut. Interesting choice, as I guess they don't want to deal with it, because right now Dignitas' lineup, even though they have a lot of strong pushing, they don't do a lot of burst damage, so the healer could potentially be an issue. But other than that, I really see no reason why Dignitas should fear the Juggernaut in this game. Meanwhile, EG, respecting Snaking's Templar Assassin and noticing Dignitas has yet to pick up mid, gonna ban out the TA, so Dignitas won't have access into that Snaking mid TA. And TA with this lineup, of course, if it gets rolling, it'll just be ridiculously hard to stop. One thing that does do well against TA Lifesteal Lone Druid lineup is that you can just get Ghost Scepters, and those heroes are gonna be useless for about 4 seconds, of course, unless there is a Diffusal Blade.
10 seconds remaining.
Meanwhile, Dignitas probably going to ban out another semi-carry slash pusher. They haven't been banning out carries like I thought they would. They're going to ban out the Gyrocopter now, so that makes a bit of sense. But I think the thing about Gyrocopter is that you can overpower him with Lifesteal and Lone Druid if you really want to. But I guess Dignitas sort of fear facing the Gyrocopter in a Trial versus Trial scenario. And they also probably fear him in the late game because Lifesteal and Lone Druid do pretty well in the late game, but I mean, Gyrocopter does have a lot of potential to do a lot of havoc in that stage of the game. And of course, Gyrocopter, if he picks up the Shadow Blade, can potentially split push very, very hard, and that will really, really shut down this group up and push strategy that Dignitas seems to be currently employing. Meanwhile, EG going to smartly ban out the Storm Spirit. Storm Spirit, not only is he a suitable mid for snaking, he also has that Lifesteal Bomb. Invest means that you can gank pretty much anybody. And even though EG has a pretty tanky lineup, Bane is not too shabby in terms of tankability. Darkster, of course, builds very, very tankily. Visage is also quite tanky, and he's pretty good at surviving. Storm Spirit, Ball Lightning into Infest can negate a lot of that tankiness if EG is caught out by their lonesome. So a smart ban here, but Dignitas gonna pick up the Lina instead. So they're gonna have the Lightstealer into Lightstark Array or Ice Path combination. That'll be a nightmare to face against in the challenge because Lightstark Array in conjunction with Ice Path don't really cost too much mana, so Lightstar doesn't even need to land open wounds if he wants to go in. So even though EG does have a Visage in their trial line, it's still going to be quite scary to say the least because Bane can't really contribute as much in the trial line. He probably won't be maxing Feeble because he will be in the trial line. He'll probably get maybe 1 point and then just stick with that until maybe around level 8 or level 9. You know, EG picking up the second most trendy hero in China, the Kunkka, as Kunkka has really, really been seen quite a bit these days in the Chinese scene. And I think Kunkka is a pretty fun hero. His bow is ridiculously powerful. You don't even have to hit the bow, and you can just get that immense damage reduction buff for quite a pretty hefty duration of the team fight. Torrent, if it does hit, and more players are going to find it easier to get the Torrent 2 hit because they're going to be able to practice more with Kunkka and just get more skill with the hero in general. So yeah, Torrent will be able to hit a couple times, and it is an AoE stun slash slow for quite a long duration. Also, the X is going to be quite useful against any initiators like the Clockwork, so that could be a pretty big deal as well. And Lifesteal, once he's out of rage, you may be able to juke him around with the X, but mostly it's because of the bow and Torrent that Kunkka has become more and more viable. Especially the bow, because it has such a short cooldown, you can use it multiple times in whatever engagement. If you want to look to pick off one hero, if you're trying to escape, you can use the bow, and it can get you out of a lot of different situations. And not only is the bow incredibly useful, but it's synergizes so well with this team because it's already going to be difficult to bring down the Visage, Bane, and Darkseer with not much burst damage on your team besides Lina. But in conjunction with the bow, it's going to be immensely difficult to kill EG in a straight-up team fight while the bow's effects are active. What I'm a bit concerned about for EG is where's their damage going to come from, because Dignitas, even though they don't do a lot of burst damage, EG doesn't really do that much damage either, and Dignitas did pick up a reasonably tanky lineup. Jakiro very tanky, Clockwork pretty tanky, and EG gonna run up their lineup with the Void, so they're gonna bring back some of the old Q-pad, where Waga liked picking up the Void, Sing Sing liked picking up the Kunkka. Kunkka, in conjunction with the Void, synergizes reasonably well because the Chronosphere does help to set up the bow, so it does actually manage to get the full damage, and the bow's damage is quite reasonable. Torrent, of course, does a pretty good chunk of damage as well, so the Chronosphere definitely helps set it up. Also, Bane, Nightmare into Torrent, gonna be very, very useful, and if Bambo manages to hit a pretty solid vacuum wall, boat, Torrent, Chronosphere combination, then Dignitas could potentially get wiped. So EG relying a bit more on a team fight heavy lineup, meanwhile Dignitas more on a group up and push in and steamroll our opponent before they get too far in, because Void is going to be one of those carries who, if he does manage to get the farm, will be able to overpower Lifestealer as well as Lone Druid.
5 seconds remaining.
So both teams snatching up their heroes. This is game one. I'll probably try to cast the whole series and get these out to you ASAP. A bit more free time this week. So yeah, I've decided to start streaming regularly again at around 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be streaming pubs, maybe a Drunktastic adventure here and there, and I might even stream some replay casts. So tune in, twitch.tv/b1773, and I appreciate all the support that you guys can give me. But anyway, interesting, the players and teams are going to have way too sexy on Dignitas playing the Lena. Fogd is going to be playing the Jakiro. ZXCVNM, which I have to assume is Universe, playing the Lifestealer because this is one of his favorite heroes. And yes, he is going to be handling that Lifestealer. AUI 2000, currently in LA, participating in BTS's studio production as Bane. Gonna get Nishion with the open wound, Snaking trying to get himself in position as Snaking is actually going to be playing Clockwork. Does manage to get a nice Cogs, way too sexy, not even bothering to use Lifestealer. Now it's just going to use a Beatiz. Caught in no man's land. I'm not too sure what Beatiz was doing at all. Maybe he was trying to plant some wards, but that is going to be quite detrimental for EG's trialing, as Fogd will pick up the first blood, so that is going to mean an immediate flying courier upgrade, and that means Clockwork will have a bit of an easier time up against a mid lane hero, which it will be Kunkka in this case. But yeah, AOI in LA helping on BTS. Snaking going to be playing the Clockwork in the middle lane. Not usually a Snaking hero, likes to play more of those very mobile, very versatile. He sort of strikes me as a Dendi kind of player where he wants to have a lot of mobility on his side rather than getting something like an NA who can do reasonably well in the mid lane but doesn't really like to get it as, oh man, Bambo could be in a bit of trouble. Dignitas, they seem to be getting all the luck in the early stages of the game. The Bear with the haste rune looking to block off Bambo. They won't be able to kill Bambo, and actually the right click auto attack of the Lone Druid gonna whiff up the hill. But still forcing Bambo to use some of his tangos, which he was pulled an extra set, so he is well equipped to handle this long lane. And keep in mind, Bambo, if he really needs to do it, he can just cut around and skip the creeps, and he has a lot of regen that can continue to do so. The only thing that might become an issue is perhaps the mana. But yeah, on the side of EG, we're going to have Jo playing the Faceless Void, Fear playing the Visage, Demons playing the Kunkka, Bambo is going to be playing the Darkseer, and Beatiz is going to be playing the Bane Elemental. So as far as Trillions go, you definitely got to favor Dignitas Trillion. They have a lot more aggressive nature, and Leicester can definitely play a bit more recklessly in when he decides to go in for last hits. Bane can't really help you out too much in a Trillion. Void doesn't do any damage in a Trillion, and I mean, Visage really wants to be active when his Trillion teammates can do a lot of damage, and if the Lena as well as the Jakiro do pump out a lot of damage, Fear will be able to counter-initiate with the Soul Assumption, but that's never really in a position you want to be in. You want to be initiating with the Soul Assumption so you can cast it as many times as possible, rather than just sticking around waiting for your teammates to get potentially killed. So that might be a bit unfortunate for Fear in this game. And just judging by the lineup, since EG, I feel like they want to pick up the Visage pick, but I don't know if this is the correct lineup to utilize it in. But still, again, it is a ridiculously tanky hero, and EG's lineup is going to be incredibly difficult to bring down, especially if Bambo manages to get himself a fast mecha and even a pipe as well, as pipe could be potentially very, very useful up against these heroes. Lena, Jakiro, Clock all do a lot of magical damage, but pipe is probably not going to be high on the priority list. Mechanism, on the other hand, definitely will be. Meanwhile, this mid lane matchup, it's not something I've seen in quite a while. It's more of an old school Dota 1 matchup. I've got to imagine Clockwork has the advantage, especially nowadays, since he can just mana burn the Kunkka relentlessly with his power cogs. But Demon, I mean, he might be able to get a bit more rune control, because Tidemaker will always passively push the creep wave. But unfortunately for EG, they have no vision on their side of the map whatsoever. So maybe that's why Bane was sort of straying in that first blood vicinity. He was trying to maybe place a ward. Was not expecting Dignitas to perhaps go on the offensive. Noticing EG, maybe EG thought since we have Visage, Dignitas might not want to go on the offensive, but I think EG were probably awaiting the Dignitas trying, but unfortunately Beat I mean, everybody makes mistakes, so Beat is paying for it with a little bit more, and he does manage to get a ward down at the very least. But yeah, Demon going to be pretty difficult for Clockwork to deny, especially once he gets more and more into Tidebringer. That Tidebringer cooldown will lower, his damage will go up, and Demon will be able to out-deny the Clockwork at the very least, even if he can't really kill the Clockwork at any stage, because he won't really have that much mana. And Clockwork seems like he's been doing a lot of rocket spam to just clear out the creep waves ASAP, as he has picked up 2 points in a battery assault rather than going for the max cogs build or the max rocket build. Usually those builds are more appropriate in games where you are an off-lane Clockwork, but I like the battery assault in this game because Clockwork, being a mid lane hero in this case, wants to do as much damage as possible, and battery assault is Clockwork's most damaging spell by far. As there might be a slight foray on the top lane. No, looks like both teams just trading a lot of harassment. And so far, Jo is farming pretty reasonably. He is facing Lystro and 2 supports, but looks like there has been a support rotation. Just want to spot out Fogged. He is going to check the rune, as he's going to camp it on the top lane. Demon, of course, is fully aware of Fogg's position up there, as Bambo just going to bottle crow. And you can see that bear, if Bambo didn't have all of those tangos, that bear perhaps could have gotten a kill. But Darkseer being level 5 still has to be careful, as AUI is just controlling the lane. I'm a bit surprised that Bambo hasn't done any creep skipping, but he might know that might leave him a bit too exposed to something like a clock gank. And as always, Darkseer is going to be the linchpin for his team, as Bambo might be engaged upon. Here comes Snaking, wrapping around, as AUI going to come in as well. Here comes the battery assault, going to do a lot of damage to Bambo. The root is going to add insult to injury, and man, what an injury, as Snaking going to take a bit more damage than otherwise was necessary, but we'll be able to clean up the kill nonetheless. AUI actually picked the last hit, so that's going to be very, very nice. Clockwork hero doesn't really need that many items, but Lone Druid definitely wants to have items, as he greatly scales with every item he does pick up. And now Darkseer being a level behind, it's a bit dangerous to go up against the Lone Druid. I mean, the Lone Druid player will have to get pretty lucky with multiple entangles over the course of a very short duration if he wants to kill off the Darkseer. But still, the passive harassment means that Darkseer will take a decent amount of harassment. If he manages to get one entangle during that time, he will be able to pick up the kill. Just want to rewind, as Demon in a lot of trouble. The cogs actually pushed Demon away, as the hook gonna land on Demon. Demon actually was standing still for a while. I guess he was trying to micro the courier, as yeah, Demon gonna die to the Clockwork, and that is what I missed. But the battery assault being maxed as his first spell, look at how much damage it does. Kunkka, a relatively tanky hero, but the battery assault does way too much DPS if it's leveled up. And mid lane Clockwork, you do want to do a lot of damage, because Clockwork is a hero doesn't really scale as well as most other mid-solo heroes. Pause going through, so just going to fast forward. Still, it's not going terribly wrong for EG. I think they know that they're probably going to lose the early and laning phase. And right now, I mean, that's the position they're in. Bambo's been able to get a reasonable amount of farm. And actually, I'm not too sure why Bambo isn't just creep skipping. Maybe he wants to contest Lone Druid's farm a bit more, but he is risking himself quite severely, especially without any wards on the bottom lane to protect him from any sort of ganks. I mean, I guess that might be why he's not creep skipping, because he isn't protected. So if somebody teleports in, if the bear manages to get one tangle, then Darkseer could potentially be screwed. So I guess that's why Bambo doesn't really feel like creep skipping at this point. But you can see EG's lack of vision definitely hurting them, forcing their heroes to play a bit more passively. And again, they are weak in terms of laning phase, but if they can hold out to the mid game, they might stand a solid shot. And so far, none of their towers have been pushed at the very least. Lastro has been able to get a reasonable amount of farm, but Void hasn't been doing too shabbily either. And my question for this game is going to be, what item will Void go for, as Darkseer going to actually roam in towards the bottom lane, trying to kill off AUI, as AUI trying to channel his inner Sylar, juking around. He's going to transform into the melee Bayar form, as he is going to force out TP. Bambo might be caught in a very, very awkward position. Bear desperately hoping for Entangle, unfortunately not going to be lucky, as Darkseer mans up, kills off AUI, and going to escape with his life. Really, really nice engagement of Bambo. The Lone Druid does have full HP. I don't know why Bambo felt the need to dive him, but what a play. I guess he got a couple ion shells, and that managed to get a kill, as Lightstrike gonna whiff. no open wounds, and that might have potentially been the end of one of the
Radiant's
heroes on the
bottom
side of EG,
tower
but
is
again,
under
they're
attack.
pretty tanky. But suddenly Bambo looking a lot more sharp in this lane. If he manages to get himself a fast mech, that can definitely help to boost EG's teamfight potential in the early game. And a byproduct of that is that Snaking actually teleported to the bottom lane to try to save the life of AUI, and that means the Demon's going to get a lot of farm and will be able to provide a bit of pressure towards the middle tower. But Bambo might be flirting with death as oh, beautiful Iron Shell block. AUI can be a lot of trouble, but Snaking gonna bail his buddy out of it. But Snaking taking so much damage from the Iron Shell. Battery Cell versus Iron Shell. Who is gonna win? It's gonna be the Clock, as he does manage to pick up the last hit, and Snaking is probably sweating his balls off just to manage to save AUI's life. AUI has got to be super grateful, as me on the top lane, all chaos is breaking loose. Once again, gonna use the handy replay function to see how this happened. I guess it was open wounds in the Light Strike right into Ice Path, as Jakiro was nightmared up, but Bane will kill off the Light Star, surprisingly enough, and actually EG gonna turn this trial around. It is difficult for EG trying to be engaged upon, as the boat actually gonna kill off the Lina. X is gonna be used. Can they get a lucky bash? You can see that is definitely what Jay was hoping for, but he might be just a bit too unlucky. Beat is forced away, but the Torrent is gonna hit square on the head of the Jakiro. Meanwhile, Beat is just going to trade his life. Leicester does pick himself up a pyrrhic kill, but so far, even though he's down in terms of kills, they've got to be feeling pretty good. They've suddenly been able to get themselves a pretty solid advantage in this trial lane. And they didn't even have Chronosphere. As Miel, all is not right at the BTS house. Apparently AOI's mouse is broken. But Demon with a nice rotation managed to pick himself up a kill, 1 assist, and actually Demon's not really farming as well as I'd hoped. But he's still out farming the Clockwork, and keep in mind it's only 7.5 minutes in the game. Meanwhile, Jo is going to go for the Battle Fury build most likely. He picked up the Poorman Shield, so that is of course to mitigate the physical harassment as well as trying to sustain himself in lane, and went for the Ring of Health, so he is going to go for the Battle Fury most likely. And I was actually going to say, is Battle Fury the right item in this game? It will help Faceless Void's farming speed by quite a bit, but you've got to imagine that at a certain point, Dignitas are just going to group up and push in as all 5. And Void is not really the best split pusher. He doesn't have anything like a blink. He doesn't get that much attack speed until he manages to get some pretty good attack speed items. And he does need a lot of levels in order to split push very, very well. And he can be ganked a bit easier than something like an anti-mage, even though his time walk is a bit difficult to track down. So I was a bit questionable about the Battle Fury, but I guess JL feels the need that you can farm up. And if they do manage to get a nice Vacuum Chronosphere combination, then the Cleave can be very useful. Demon pimping out the Razor products. Oh man, Demon. Universe. Calling out Razor. Steel Series is fear. I think Steel Series is one of Dignitas' farmer. Started from the bottom, we still paused. Both of these teams are American. I think these two teams get on a bit more well than some of the other American teams. Just because I don't think there's been any conflict. I don't know if EG is taking players from Dignitas or Dignitas is taking players from EG. Anything like that. So I've got to imagine that these two teams get on a bit more well than somebody like EG and Liquid or anything like that. And I do know both of these teams participate quite frequently in the IXDL. But anyway, checking out the Golden Experience graph. Gold, 500 gold advantage for the Radiant Experience, slight advantage for the Radiant as well. One thing that is going to be annoying is that Bambo did die twice, and once he almost was able to pick up a double kill, just barely narrowly missed, but that is going to force AUI to play a bit more conservatively. He didn't go for the Tranquil Boots, oddly enough, as that would definitely have probably helped Wonder to win the lane, but I guess he decided Phase Boots up on the bear would be so much more important, as that is going to be engaging on the bottom lane. Oh no, Bambo going to get caught out, and he's going to get stuck in double engine, but a nice vacuum out of the cogs. Bambo, can he surge away the Rocket Barrage? Oh man, the Rocket Flare just going to barely defend. Snaking might potentially be in a little bit of trouble. Demon decides to not spend the mana, didn't have any vision, and Fear probably wouldn't have been able to get a really strong Soul Assumption or Grave Chill. But Snaking gonna go back on the offensive, has maxed the level 4 Battery Assault, and you can see it does do. If every charge does manage to hit, it does well over 750 damage. But meanwhile, Beat is gonna run bravely towards the side of Dignitas. They're going to teleport both the supports in. They're both going to do a huge chunk of damage, but at this point, EG really not doing nearly enough damage as Fair did already blow all of his solar summon charges. Meanwhile, Demon out of mana and could be potentially out of time. Nice light strike by way too sexy. There's going to be a rotation in by Sexy Bambo, who has just managed to respawn. I'm not too sure what Dignitas is doing. He just charged in saying YOLO, and I guess, I mean, well, you do live more than once in Dota, to say the least. And not only did Dignitas die, that is also going to have to force Bambo to the middle lane as he wants to protect his team, but that is going to cost EG the first tier 1 tower of the game, and it was not contested whatsoever, so AUI getting a lot of gold at this point in the game. 42 CS, not too shabby up against a Darkseer. Meanwhile, Lifesteal been able to contentedly farm up to 46 CS, probably going to go into the phase drum armlet build that is so commonly favored by most Lifesteal players. AUI probably going to go into the armlet build that is most commonly favored by Lone Druid players. And armlet build would probably be the correct choice because he is pushing as Snaking, gonna barely lift the hook. He was waiting for so long. Bambo gonna surge out the the right direction, but one bear assault could potentially mean the end, but no, the battery assault in conjunction with the cogs gonna be able to trap Bambo in a very awkward position. Bambo might just be able to escape as the bear was pretty low in terms of HP. It looks like AOI did not want to risk its life, and Snaking was actually also very low in terms of HP, so a couple iron shells might have been the end of one of the Dignitas allies, whether it be the bear or the Snaking. Meanwhile, Jo still farming up relatively decently. 1-0 and 2 has been able to get a couple of assist ganks going as Demon gonna snag an illusion rune right from underneath Dignitas' noses, so good job by Demon. Unfortunately for Kunkka, it looks like the battery assault was frequently spammed by that clockwork in the middle lane, so that probably constantly pushed out the creep wave as well as kept Demon back. And that's why Demon has not been able to apply that much pressure on the middle tower, because Kunkka actually, since he naturally cleaves quite a bit, does provide a bit more pressure on the tower compared to most other mid lane heroes. You know, Leicester actually rotated bottom lane, perhaps looking to pick off Bambo. Gonna finish his drums, and support's not gonna actually pick up some experience in the meantime. And just checking out the levels, for the most part, it seems to be relatively even, but Dignitas definitely has a level advantage. You can see that supports are more high leveled and their carries are more high leveled as well. But Bambo gonna help set up the vacuum torrent wall. The vacuum ensured the boat hitting, but Fogged is there on the counter gank, and Bambo once again in a very sticky situation gonna surge himself out of trouble, but that might cost the end of Demon. The torrent is gonna be raged through, and it unfortunately for Demon whiffs the Lina as Lina smartly dodged the torrent, and that's one of the unfortunate things about torrent. If you see it coming, it's pretty easy to dodge, even for professional players who like to sort of place it in atypical locations anticipating the jukes, but even then, it's pretty easy to dodge. You know, Universe is going to help to defend the top tower, and AUI going to provide pressure on the bottom tower, and Lone Druid just becoming a super big nuisance, and EG does bring out the strongest gankers in the game. Their lineup is more built around teamfights, but this is what they had to expect with this lineup. This lineup, again, not that strong in the early stage of the game. It really depends on mass teamfights, but Dignitas seems like they're just going to split push, and then they'll probably only group up when they have a big enough advantage that they feel secure enough that they can push in to get the tier 3 and perhaps even the barracks. We know Fogged actually picked up a bottle, so he is not anticipating going back to base. He knows he has to be ready if anybody counter ganks, because that is definitely an option EG can use to get themselves back in the game. As Bambo going to take a lot of harassment from the bear, once again forced to be driven away, and actually it might be more prudent for Bambo to go to the jungle, but I guess it makes sense. He wants to defend the bottom tower as long as possible, which does make a lot of sense up against the Lone Druid. But he always has to dance with the danger if he has to deal with the Lone Druid. And looks like EG has finally been able to get some of the wards up. Dignitas not spending as much in terms of wards, so the support's been able to get a couple more items. You can see he picked up a Bracer. Jakiro picked up an atypical bottle. On the side of EG, Beat is pretty poor. Visage, equally poor. And their impact in this game is questionable at this stage. But all EG are waiting for is that teamfight push, but they want to have a high enough level Darkseer that can have the wall up. And it looks like Darkseer will be hitting that level 10 relatively soon, so you will be able to get that 1 point into wall very, very soon. Usually Darkseers get a point into wall at level 10 or 11, unless there's a major teamfight breaking out at around level 6. Meanwhile, Jo farming a bit slower than expected, but is playing very, very carefully. Currently does not really know the positioning of a lot of Dignitas' heroes, so his Battle Fury timing has been a bit delayed, and of course he was challenged by an aggressive Tron, but still not the worst farm in the world for Void. But the problem with Void is that he takes so much damn farm in order to really become a DPS monster. And EG, again, the problem that they're lacking is DPS.
Boom, there it goes.
As, Fear could be in a little bit of a sticky situation. The hook gonna barely whip, but Universe will be there. The Familiars, fortunately for Fear, gonna help back him up as he's gonna pop the Grave Chill, and the Familiars do stun through magical immunity, so Leicester, if the Familiars were there, could have just stunned him. But instead, Dignitas is just gonna group up, gonna look to push down the middle lane, forcing a teleport by Bambo. Meanwhile, AUI farming under the bomb tower all the while. So Bambo's nice job pushing out the lane as hard as possible before he teleported into the middle lane, and that's gonna prevent AUI from pushing into the bottom lane too freely. But EG spending a lot of gold on teleport scrolls where they desperately need the money. Bambo getting pretty close to the mechanism, all things considered, but still needs that headdress along with that extra bit of Ironwood Branch. But after he clears the stack, he will have that mechanism up, and it will be sooner than anybody on the side of Dignitas. As it looks like Clockwork, interesting enough, not going for the mechanism, went for Treads instead of Phase Arcanes. He currently has Intelligence Treads, get the most mana spam ability, and went for Urn. And Urn against EG's lineup will be pretty useful, because if Dignitas manage to escape an EG team fight, they definitely want to heal up and then push right back in. But I gotta imagine that Dignitas still wants to mech. And the question is, who will have to pick it up in this game? You know, EG playing super scared. This Kunkka not been able to have too much impact, but again, team fights. That is the name of the game for EG. As Kunkka probably going to go for drums into Shadowblade, and that is the preferred build for most Kunkkas that I've seen. But still, if he wants to pick up a straight up Chrysalis or go for something like a BKB, can't really fault him for either of those two choices. Meanwhile, Bambo will be able to finish up the mechanism now. I'm a bit surprised he hasn't picked it up, but I guess he doesn't have enough mana and knows he can't teleport to defend the middle lane without mana. So he is going to stay very, very far back and actually max vacuum instead of getting a point to wall. But he is going to hit that level 11 very, very soon. Actually, we'll pick it up right about, oh man, one experience short. That could be a bit critical, as if Dignitas chooses to push in for the tier 2 and Bambo doesn't have the wall, that could be a slight problem, but Bambo just going to finish up the mechanism and Dignitas gonna abandon their mid lane sort of,
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
how do I say it? Mid lane parade, I guess. I was thinking of a more imposing noun, but unfortunately my English has gone out the window. This meal AUI could be in a little bit of a sticky situation. EG just grouping up as 5. Bit surprised as Jo gets killed by neutrals. Snaking and Lifesteal were able to hunt him down while he was trying to clear out this neutral camp, and that is going to be a bit dangerous. Let's see if EG can respond in kind. They do manage to get a vacuum onto AUI, but where's going to be the counter initiation? They do get the Grave Chill up on the Visage, but an immediate teleport in by Way Too Sexy. Gonna be able to land stun. No, the Visage Birds gonna get the stun up, and actually the mechanism was there. The Darkseer did manage to pick it up. Mildred will kill off the Visage, but Lina gonna take the fall. Fiendskirt gonna be channeled. Here comes the wall, but the boat has already been used. It didn't actually hit anybody. It's gonna give EG a lot of damage reduction, but where is their counter damage gonna come from? Nowhere. They're gonna have to run, and they're gonna have to run fast. Looks like Bambo looking to put himself in harm's way, knowing that he can potentially escape with the best of them, and it's gonna be a 1-for-1 trade, all things considered. But still, the unfortunate news is that Snaking is pushing the top lane, and Jo did die to neutrals in that exchange, so EG coming out a little bit worse for wear, and their team fight didn't look that impressive at this stage, but it does get a lot easier when you do manage to get that Chronosphere online. As you can see, that damage reduction by the boat helped save Beatus for sure, as he would have been able to take all of that damage if it were not for the boat, as Snaking getting constantly harassed by Demon. But yeah, Jo has not been able to pick up the Battle Fury. He will be able to get it in about 800 gold, but still, a 20-minute Battle Fury is not really that impressive, especially since Dignitas, for the most part, has abandoned the aggressive Tron. I mean, for Jo's credit, I don't think he was pulled that much, and he did pick up Treads as well as a Magic Stick and a Poor Man's Shield before going for the Battle Fury, so he definitely sort of got sidetracked, but unfortunately for him, it's not really a good position for Void to face a lot of early game aggressive heroes. But that's the life of Void, and that's why you don't see him too often in professional games these days. He just needs one item too many, and sometimes damage can be unreliable if he doesn't manage to get the bashes. But that's why Void Lamps, when they are picked, they're usually revolving not around the bashes, but around the team fight they can set up with the Chronosphere. And unfortunately for JO, we have not yet been able to see a Chronosphere.
Is under attack.
Meanwhile, for EG, they have not been able to push down a tower. Meanwhile, Dignitas has been able to claim all of the Tier 1 towers, damage the Tier 2 tower on the bottom lane quite significantly, and looks like Dignitas is going to rotate to the top lane. EG currently has no idea, as Snaking and Lifesteal are in the jungle, the mighty jungle of the Clockwork. Will he reign supreme tonight? No, just one too many people on the side of EG. Gonna force Dignitas away. Meanwhile, AOI getting quite farmed as Bambo once again diving. He really wants to get off the bear as the hookshot gonna completely whip Snaking. Mistimed it completely. Not lag because both these teams are, of course, American and they are playing on American servers. Bambo. Oh man, if that entangle came at the time of the surge as Bambo trying to get the vacuum up onto the bear. The light striker is gonna catch Bambo. He's gonna get liquidated up, but the mechanism gonna help preserve life. Bambo way too sexy. Once again gonna get clobbered by a boat. And you can of course use that quite freely because it has such a short cooldown. But you can't use the wall very freely. I'm not too sure why Bambo popped the wall in that scenario. He couldn't really set up any more kills, and wall isn't the best defensive measure in the open field. It's more of a defensive measure if you're using it to defend the base. So that wall cooldown might come back to haunt Bambo if Dignitas decide to group up or decide to take Roshan, as that wall would be instrumental in helping to delay that possibility. Demon gonna go for the BKB. Again, like I mentioned, BKB gonna be very useful up against the Clockwork magical damage, the Lena magical damage, the Kira magical damage, but still, I think I would have liked it more if Demon picked up something like a drums, as his team has yet to pick up any set of drums, or even go for the Shadow Blade. Because there are a lot of things that go through the magical immunity. Lifesteal physical DPS, the Lone Druid physical DPS, the Entangle goes through the BKB, but you can BKB out of the Entangling roots as well. And the Cogs. The Cogs don't really care if you have BKB up. They will just go in as Bambo flirting with death so dangerously. Just constantly keeping AUI hoping and praying for an Entangle. But Bambo has definitely been able to forestall the push by Dignitas just on the back of these risky plays. And I guess they're not really that risky if he knows that his team is nearby to help bail him out of trouble. And actually, Jo finished up his Battle Fury, but interesting enough, not firing the neutrals. I guess with the Battle Fury choice, EG is looking for some team fights, because now they have a bit more damage up on the faces, but he's really, really squishy nonetheless. EG gonna smoke up. Dignitas have currently no idea where EG is. The Dignitas ward did not spot out anything. The bear actually gonna get body blocked, as the bear is gonna get resummoned. I think AOI was microing it well enough that he does know that something was blocking the bear. But EG not using the smoke to look for a team fight. It looks like they're just trying to claim one tower, but Dignitas is smartly just going to rotate and claim the tier 2. They might even bring it down faster, but actually this tower is lower in terms of HP, so if EG have a glyph, they can potentially defend this tier 2. What will they decide to do? They are teleporting back. Are they going to glyph up? This tower, it's going to die a little bit too quickly. And AUI once again claims the life of yet another tower. Fear does pop to the Grave Chill, ushering Universe away, just saying, get out of here, bro. But Snaking gonna charge up the rear. Fear does not have Grave Chill. He's gonna force to pop the Familiars, as the Familiars will live long after he dies. Bambo gonna blink in, does manage to get a reasonably timed wall, but Jo actually just took way too much damage, just way too squishy, and he is getting forced away. The mechanism is gonna heal up to relatively full HP. Actually, the Chronosphere, I don't think it hit anybody, so scratch that. EG's teamfight just looked extremely uncoordinated as they panicked, and they panicked hard when they saw their captain and friend was in danger. And this shoddy teamfight is gonna allow Dignitas to claim yet another tier 2 tower, and Dignitas seem to be firing on all cylinders at this point. Now, again, a couple things are wrong for EG. I don't think they anticipated Dignitas from charging up in such a weird angle. Jo popped a Chronosphere that was, if it was a different fight, it might have been out to get a lot of people, but Dignitas just a bit too mobile, I think, and Jo, I think he panicked. He was so low in terms of HP, he just got brought down. He's just like, well, I should use Chronosphere to get myself out of here. So it might not have even been a teamfight Chronosphere, it might just have been an extremely defensive Chronosphere. But still, even if the Chronosphere was there, I really doubt that EG could follow up with an appropriate enough damage, because their supports were very, very far back, and the wall was just not positioned correctly. And being in a LAN house, this is sort of the environment you want to have EG try to execute this lineup on a relatively even ping as well, because again, Dignitas is an American team. But so far, this lineup is not really working out that well for EG. But it can stand up to most lineups in the late stages of the game, provided, of course, they have the damage to bring down the Leicester as well as the Lone Druid. Which, for now, is looking very questionable, as Relic is going to be picked up by the Bear. I love this item choice so much. And this is an item that has really faded out on the Lone Druid, but there's one reason why the Lone Druid did pick this up. He saw Bambo blink in with the vacuum wall combination, and he was like, well, if that teamfight was executed a bit more cleanly, then that could have perhaps been devastating for our team, because we want to win the mid game. And so in order to cancel that dagger, he's going to go for the Radiance build. And again, Radiance is something that has faded out. It's not really going to do too much in terms of damage. The Radiance damage not going to do nearly as much, especially with the bow and the tank ability of the EG squad going to be there, but it's purely designed to counter the dagger of the Darkseer. Without that easy way to initiate, Darkseer perhaps won't be able to initiate with a vacuum, and that might force Jo to not getting a 5-man chrono. He might only get a 1 or 2-man chrono, or a 0-man chrono like he got in the last engagement. But EG smartly rotates and picks up Roshan, as Jo going to pick up an Ogre Club, recognizing that he's very, very weak in terms of HP pool. And that might give Dignitas a reason to pause, because even though they have a very, very strong base breaker in the form of Lone Druid, it's still scary to break and go up the hill up against a ridiculously powerful teamfight lineup in such a enclosed position like the ramp on the middle or on the top or on the bottom lane. But still, Dignitas looking to secure their map control, just placing wards relentlessly, and that is limiting EG's farm by quite a bit, as a nice hookshot by Snaky. It looks like Bambo will get picked off, could not even pop the mechanism. Bambo will fall. Nice hookshot by Snaking. I don't know if he spied out with the rocket or anything like that. No, he just used the rocket. I guess he just predicted Bambo being there, and maybe the Bear gave him enough vision that Snaking could get the hookshot in. And Bambo being dead suddenly gives Dignitas an opening, because the wall does provide a reasonable source of DPS, as well as the Iron Shells, and the Lone Druid gonna send his fluffy Panda Bear in to claw that tower to death. The Medallion by Visage gonna do a bit of work, as the nice Resummon by Fear gonna prevent the death of that. X gonna be used on the Bear, and it might very well end up dying. It will die. One last hit by Jail will help to clean up. And anyway, doesn't really want to push in. He knows Bambo will be respawning relatively soon. He wants to have 2 bears when he does finally decide to push in. But still, overall, a successful engagement by Dignitas. They managed to get a free kill, and they managed to do a pretty solid chunk of damage to the tier 3 tower. And force the resummon by a Visage, and that does have a very, very long cooldown. Way too sexy. Checking does have the Drums Universe. Looks like he's going to go for the Heaven's Halberd up against the Void. Very, very useful item until that Void gets a BKB. Or he could just go for Sanjay Yasha, the race car build. That has been so affectionately returned by many, many players, but especially Draskell. Snaking earn Force Staff as well as a point booster, so he's trying to transition himself into an Aghanim Scepter. Reigns has been finished up on the Bear, and now AOI can just push out lanes with his Bear if he feels the need to do just that, and that'll just be very, very annoying, because EG will never have the creep equilibrium, and they only have 1 tower, so they're definitely being denied a lot of gold. Fogged has finished up the mechanism at the very least for Dignitas, and meanwhile Jail went actually back into Mask of Madness. I like this choice a bit more by Jail, even though there is a lot of magical damage and a lot of lockdown on side Dignitas. You have an Aegis. You probably can get a BKB before the Aegis does expire if you just play a bit safely. And instead he wants to get a bit more DPS. Unfortunately, oh man, the Visage Bird's actually got the last hit. I thought that flying meteor that Lino was using might have been able to secure the kill, as Universe just sprinting ahead with the face suits as well as the Sanjay Yasha. Meanwhile, Bambo just looking to get the heck out of there. The Bear is going to catch up to the Demon. They're going to get an open wounds down onto the Admiral Kunkka. He is going to pop his BKB, but the Clockwork Cog is going to trap to Jail, going to be entangled. Meanwhile, Field Script going to be challenged on Universe, but no damage is coming through. The Leicester just going to take it up relentlessly, is going to invest the Lone Druid Spirit Bear. Meanwhile, Jail not been able to find the appropriate chronosphere angle, and his team is just getting run over at this point. Demon is going to be the next one to fall. The belt effects have all but worn out. Jail gonna use the chronosphere, trying to pick himself up at the very least 1 kill, and he will be able to do that, but he already used his time walk. He will most certainly die in this engagement unless he manages to get all the bashes. The birds are going to be there, but I think the stun cooldown has already been used. Jail will end up dying, and that fight just went abysmally for EG. And that's the power of chasing lives, as they can force you to take fights in very, very
Dire's bottom tower
suboptimal
is under
positions. As
attack.
EG probably were ready to fight at the tier 1 tower, and they're ready to fight at the base, but they're not nearly ready to fight out in such an open field where they can't utilize the chronosphere, the wall, anything like that. And you saw Dignitas just attacked from so many different angles. They attacked from the jungle, they attacked from
Dire's
the
bottom
left-hand
tower
side of
is
the
under
map,
attack.
and they were able to just destroy EG. And now, even though EG does have strong team fight lineup, they might be just a couple items behind
Dire's
too
bottom
much.
tower is
The
under
bear has a
attack.
Radiance. I mean, the bear almost has more net worth than the Darkseer at this point in the game, which is very, very scary. Talking about the Spirit Bear, of course. It's not looking good for EG here in this game. And this dagger, Bambo might be regretting his decision. It was a very, very aggressive item, very good positioning, and of course, the reason why I got it was to vacuum into Chronosphere, but
Dire's middle tower
Radiance is
under
not something
attack.
we've seen on Bear in quite a while, but AUI making a smart item choice, gonna get that, and that is gonna completely ruin the dagger's chance of being very useful in this game. Demon did have the BKB in the last engagement, but you saw how much it did. The boat was able to do somewhat, like a little bit of DPS. The Torrent was able to hit a couple targets. The Cleaves did a number, but Dignitas' lineup, again, like I emphasized, is very tanky. You need the whole kitchen caboodle at this stage in the game to kill off the Dignitas lineup, as the bear gonna spot out Demon. Demon's gonna die. He pops another BKB, and meanwhile JL gonna trap himself in with the AOI and just says, well, fuck, I can't kill this guy. He's gonna get fogged, but is gonna immediately force to run away. JL will get stunned out by the Ice Path. EG just crumbling under Dignitas' pressure. JL will even be able to survive from the burn damage. Looks like he will just be able to escape, but he already used the Chronosphere. The only thing that went positive for EG in that fight is that they didn't use the wall, because if they used the wall, then that would just allow Dignitas to push in without any sort of fear. His Demon, again, you saw how it happened. The Lone Druid Bear just went in, snaking, got the hook, and surprise, in the bear, there was a life stealer. So good usage of the Lone Druid Spirit Bear. I was a bit dubious of how the life stealer could potentially initiate, but with the bear and the clockwork, he's been able to find a lot of avenues to get in to do his damage. Meanwhile, the stunts have already been used on the familiars, just staying on the creep wave, and that means the bear can just go ham on this tower, as even with the enfeeble, which I think is only level 1, he's still doing quite a bit of damage. Level 2 enfeeble, not too impressive. The bear might end up dying, but he does manage to pick off the tier 3, and actually the bear is going to be saved. Dignitas probably just going to look to heal up, may take Roshan, and then end the game. As EG, their damage is just not there whatsoever. This team fight lineup might be a bit more easy to execute, had if Dota was just a little bit more low-leveled. As, I mean, if we saw in the past, those team fight lineups would have definitely been able to hit a couple times, but this team fight lineup, I think Dota's progressed to such a point that the players are good enough to know that, alright, even if we're just having a chaotic engagement, we will never sort of clump up against a team fight lineup when that is their only opportunity to get themselves back in the game. And, I mean, it's been working, but it is a different story breaking into the base, as you are forced to clump up. But yeah, Dota has definitely come a long way, and that's why I think Magnus has sort of been not as successful, even if he is still very, very popular. But still, that's neither here nor there. EG, you definitely have a shot. Never say never when you have this sort of team fight lineup. They just need to get the combination, as it's just been a little bit off the mark, as Bambo's probably just saying, alright, I have the avenue to link in. But, I mean, it gets cancelled, Jo jumps in, and then he realizes he's all by himself. Demon is in a very unoptimal position to land his full combination. And Dignitas, even if they do get the full combination unloaded upon them, they might be tanky enough to survive it. The Lone Druid has a ridiculous amount of HP. Snaking will have the Aghanim Scepter up relatively soon. Gold Graph is hugely in favor of in Dignitas' favor. Experience Graph also favoring Dignitas quite heavily. But Dignitas, they can't wait around too long, as even though the team fight lineup not working out, you never really want to give EG any chances, especially up against Void, who is one of the most powerful late game heroes in the game. And actually, interesting choice by Dignitas. They're choosing to farm their own jungle rather than farming the opposing team's jungle. As, not too sure the reasoning behind it. Oh, this is why. Because Lone Druid's just taking all the farm with his Rain Spare. Really, really nice play by AUI, as he's going to deny a lot of gold for EG, as well as get himself a nice bit of gold. And Dignitas, what they're trying to do here is just get control and try to get the next Roshan, because with the next Roshan, the bear will just have such an easier time pushing in, and will be able to hammer away on those barracks. But EG's glyph will be up, as actually the bear gonna get driven away by EG here on the top lane, but the bear, undeterred, gonna continue his murderous, fluffy rampage all across the EG jungle. Javelin is gonna be in the bear's arsenal, as he is definitely gonna go for a basher, as once the bear gets a basher with his attack speed, he is just gonna be relentless. Absolutely devastating. You know, way 2. Snaking has a gem. Way 2 gonna promptly deward it. Fogged. Just picking up hours. Fogged, not been able to get too many items, but gonna be more than happy to leave it to his teammates to pick up the slack. Universe has been able to secure himself a basher. If you look at the overall scores, Universe 6-1-4. I mean, Dignitas as a team, they've only died 7 times, which is pretty respectable. 7 times, as you can see here, up on the main scoreboard. Only Way 2's feeding, as he so often does. Come on, Way 2. Way 2's like one of the nicest guys ever. In person. I don't know how he is online. I've never talked to him online. Meanwhile, the Roshans respawn, and Dignitas can immediately rotate themselves in. They have the Vlad stuff as well? No, looks like they don't. I was just imagining it. And actually, Leona has been out to secure herself a Yule Scepter, so if somebody jumps in, then she can sort of force herself up into the air. Snaky gonna find the Avenue of Initiation. Will pick off Jo, as Jo forced to pop a Mask Madness. Wall in a little bit better position this time, but Universe going ham on Demon. Fiend Script gonna be used on Universe, but the Chronosphere will be there as well. Universe is just not dying. The boat is gonna be there. A lot of damage is going to be soaked up by the boat, as Solar Symptoms are going to be used in EG's retreat. Bembo running in the complete opposite direction that his team is retreating in. Beatas will get picked off, as Beatas has just not been having a good time. Bembo will get slain as well. Jo gonna have to run home and look to fight another day. Darkseer gonna buy back, but Darkseer without a wall, as Dignitas looking to push in. I'm not too sure how much he can do. As Darkseer went for initiation heavy build, but I think it's coming back to haunt him, as he went for the Force Staff as well as the Blink Dagger. And good eye by Snaking, catching out EG, even though I think EG were probably looking to retreat or catch Dignitas out on this round, but Snaking disrupted that completely, forced Jo to pop his Mask of Madness, and without the Mask of Madness, Void's DPS is very, very reduced, as Vacuum into boat might do a significant chunk of damage. Actually, it whiffs Dignitas completely. Bembo gonna die yet again. He has no longer any buyback. Jo gonna be forced away, and it looks like Dignitas will take Game 1 in this Best of 3 series in the Raidcall D2L League Season 3. And Dignitas, knowing that they still have 2 bears, knowing that they still have the Aegis up, will look to continue their murderous assault on the Dire buildings. And EG really can't do anything but sit around and wait. Fear gonna get blown up. And Dignitas gonna claim the second set of barracks. Bembo, of course, doesn't have buyback, so he has no wall. And 2 set of barracks up against a Lone Druid Lifesteal combination with an Aegis, when Void, his only DPS item, is a Mask of Madness with a Battle Fury. I don't know if EG can possibly come back from this deficit. Dignitas just going to play it cool, defend their tier 2, and then probably rotate in for the bottom tier 3 and then end the game. Or they might even switch around for mid. Who knows? The ball is definitely in Dignitas' side of the court, and they could do whatever they damn well please to that ball. They can force it to do unspeakable things. Dignitas X ball forever. Meanwhile, oh man, it's all but over in this game. I don't really see a way that EG can possibly come back. Usually there are always ways, but I mean, EG, even if they have been able to get a reasonably successful teamfight, they just have no damage. And Dignitas just picked 2 tanky of a lot of Snaking. Gonna get nightmared, but Universe just says, surprise bitches. Of course, you're gonna trap a couple of people. And if Bambo is there with the wall, this could be the opening for EG to get themselves back in the game. The boat gonna hit everybody. Snaking will finally die. EG gonna pick up the first kill in forever, but the bear, in conjunction with Universe, just doing way too much. Universe still has Aegis, keep in mind. Bambo gonna get zapped. The bear bashing, entangling, gonna kill off Bambo. Fear will be driven away. Leicester does not care how much move speed you drain from him. He moves damn fast regardless. And Jo gonna buy back, or buy his BKB, but that will not help when your only ally in the upcoming push is gonna be Beatas. And AUI just gonna go in, try to secure the deal. We'll pick up Mega Creeps. Jo gonna pop the BKB, looking to kill off Way Too Sexy. Way Too Sexy says, haha, I'm not feeding anymore, guys. As he has managed to get himself up to a 3 and 4 score, as looks like he did end up dying to the Bane Elemental. So Way Too Sexy fed. And Dignitas gonna pick up Mega Creeps, so that's gonna be it for game 1 in this game, as we're just waiting for Yuji to tab out. I mean, they have really no openings. Void has no money. And Ichi not GG out just yet. They might just be talking about it in their team house. But Dignitas gonna get the game. EG does finally call GG. And EG have to respond in game number 2 of this best of 3 series if they want to get themselves closer to a DreamHack Valencia spot. Meanwhile, Dignitas looking to turn around their recent struggles with a win. And so far in this game, they looked very damn well on their way to getting themselves out of the slump. As Ring Around the Bambo is going to continue. Unfortunately, can run, but you can't run, Bambo. So EG gonna drop the first game. Dignitas overall played very, very solid Dota. I can't really say if they made that many mistakes. Meanwhile, EG, I think their lineup was just maybe a little bit too hard to execute on a team like Dignitas. Their lanes, every lane lost. It's just too much of a mid-game DPS, or a mid-game teamfight lineup, and up against Lifestyle and Lone Druid and a farmed Clockwork, it's just going to be very difficult to execute unless Void manages to get himself a ridiculous amount of farm. So EG, I think it was the draft that did him in. The lanes definitely didn't help, and we'll see if they can recover in time for Game 2. But thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back with Game 2 very soon, so I'll see you all next time. Peace.